Hello again and welcome back to Precipitation Measurements. We're looking at point measurements right now and we're working our way through recording gauges. We talked about weighing rain gauges, we talked about tipping bucket, but we're going to do one more weighing rain gauge. Specifically, we are looking at the AWPEG. The AWPEG, AWPEG, that's the acronym and it's pronounced AWPEG. But it stands for the All-Weather Precipitation Accumulation Gauge, and this has been the standard for the National Weather Service at all ASOS stations since 2004. It's manufactured by a company in Mississippi, C.C. Lin and Associates, but actually it was designed in Germany by a hydrometeorological company called OTT. So sometimes you'll hear this referred to as the OTT weighing rain gauge, OTT spelled O-T-T, OTT. The AWPEG is made of three different parts. It's got the sensor assembly, the electronics enclosure assembly, and also the windscreen assembly. And as the picture shows there, it's pointing to each assembly. We're going to go through each part in detail since this is the standard for making precipitation measurements for the National Weather Service. Here is the sensor assembly. The sensor assembly can be seen as a big silver bucket. Also, the pipe house and measurement systems are also included in this sensor assembly. So the pipe house is the big silver thing, and that is actually the sensor assembly. It has inside a plastic bucket which measures precipitation, and also the weighing instrumentation. In other words, the sensor that actually weighs the amount of water in the bucket. This is made of stainless steel. The opening is not a funnel, but it's standard. 31 square inch collection orifice or opening. And also this metal contraption, the silver pipe house, also protects the electronics and measurement systems that are located inside this. So it has this plastic bucket that you see inside that, and then also it has all of the weighing instrumentation. Also, the pipe house ring is heated, in other words, the top, the opening or the orifice, so that as precipitation falls, if it's snow, it doesn't block the opening. It heats it and melts it, and it can fall into that plastic bucket, which is inside that silver container. So it prevents the frozen precipitation from building up along the orifice. This is what the inside looks like. We looked at that white plastic bucket that fits into a scale. It is cold and UV resistance, and it can hold a lot of precipitation, this plastic bucket. It can hold up to 53 inches of precipitation, believe it or not. Here in Grand Forks, we typically get about 25 inches of precipitation a year. So it really doesn't have to be swapped out very often, or dumped out, that precipitation. So this is one of the instruments on the ASOS that is pretty self-reliant. It takes care of itself. This is what the measurement system looks like. This is inside that big silver container. You can see where the plastic bucket fits into kind of a little holding area. And then down below, you can see the instrumentation, and also this is the weight measuring equipment down here. So that's what's actually measuring the weight and determining the amount of precipitation that fell. There is also, this apparatus is also heated, and also it's got other electronic devices for quality assurance and things like that. The heater actually goes on for the pipe house unit or the sensor unit between when the temperature drops below 14 degrees Fahrenheit. But the ring heater goes on between 41 degrees Fahrenheit and 18 degrees Fahrenheit. Don't worry about the details, that's just information for you. This is a little bit close-up of the weighing mechanism that's included inside that silver bucket pipe house. As you can see, there is a load cell. Basically what it is, it's a pressure transducer. So there's linkage and some springs, and as the weight increases in the bucket, it starts to add additional pressure to this load cell. The load cell is an electronic pressure transducer, basically. And as the pressure increases, it calibrates that to a certain amount of precipitation. It figures out, based on the force, the weight of water in the bucket. There have been some problems over the years with foreign bodies entering the bucket. Well, at least not over the years, but during testing. And they came up with an algorithm where if they see a large change in the bucket weight over a period of time, then it'll issue a warning, and then the meteorological technicians have to come out and check the AWPEG, and that is 0.59 inches in 1 minute. And once again, these are little details that not many people really need to know about, but it's kind of useful information. This also measures frozen precipitation. More so, it measures the snow water equivalent. So as snow falls, it falls into the upper part of the orifice. It melts. The bucket is filled with glycol. It's recharged about every 6 months or so with new glycol. Glycol prevents the water in the bucket from freezing. Also, it's heated at colder temperatures. So it actually melts the frozen precipitation, the snow, the ice pellets, or whatever. And then from that, it can measure the weight and figure out its water equivalent. Evaporation is not really a concern. It's not measuring the loss of water or weight, but it's looking at only the increase. And as I said, it can hold up to 53 inches of precipitation, so really it doesn't have to be empty but once a year. And as I mentioned earlier, they have to recharge it with glycol, and that's typically done once every 6 months from what I understand. And this is kind of comical. When it first came out back in 2004, they did testing for the AWPEG. And this came from the report. It said that in 2003, the investigation of a false precipitation accumulation report at the Mobile, Alabama ASOS determined several frogs had taken up residence in and around the weighing mechanism. And after the frogs were removed, there were no more reports of false accumulation. So that does happen sometimes. So that's all we have for weighing rain gauges. We'll talk about capacitance rain gauges in another video.